How did human life on Earth really begin? Was the first man really created by God from the dust of the ground and then molded into shape? And then the breath of life was breathed into his nostrils? If so, then how did this dust manage to form our brains, internal organs, cells, and DNA? How did the dust manage to form our respiratory, our circulatory, nervous, digestive, endocrine, glandular, immune, and musculoskeletal systems? All this from mere dust? We propose that man wasn't created, nor did he evolve in a vacuum. Moreover, we contend that man was originally created for a specific purpose. A purpose that may be unsettling to some, but nonetheless, a purpose it was. Journey with us through space and time to a point in the space-time continuum where the causes for man creation began to take effect. It all happened a long time ago. But to our creators, it has only been a few hundred years or so. The history of man's beginning on Earth is extremely complex. We have been led to believe that the book of Genesis is the end-all be-all regarding the creation of the universe and subsequently man. What is recorded in the book of Genesis, many scholars have come to believe, is only a fragmented version of the story that has been copied from much earlier texts that were discovered buried in ancient ruins and hidden in scrolls from the remote past. Many of these relics from the past are in the form of clay or cuneiform tablets. For those of us who may be unaware, cuneiform tablets are ancient clay tablets that were inscribed by the people of ancient Sumeria, Mesopotamia, Babylon, and Acadia with a tool, a wooden head-shaped writing tool called a stylus. A stylus can be better understood as these cultures' form of a pen. The only difference is that back then, they didn't use a quill or ink to record their events. The stylus's tip was made in a triangle-like shape, and it was then impressed upon wet clay tablets in various directions to form signs, symbols, words, and phrases. Once inscribed, these clay tablets would then be dried, cured, and stored for record-keeping purposes, or as logs, diaries, or even library books. These cuneiform or clay tablets were in many respects the notebooks or ledgers of the people of the ancient past. The practice of storing these ancient writings was used by the ancient Sumerian, Mesopotamian, Babylonian, and Akkadian cultures to keep records of their history, to record certain events, sales, wills, and testaments, i.e., all aspects of their culture. Cuneiform writing is believed to have originated in ancient Sumeria, or Sumer, the land of Shinar, which is in modern-day Iraq, and where many historians assert the first human civilization miraculously sprang up out of nowhere fully intact approximately 5,000 years ago. From Sumeria, cuneiform writing and record-keeping spread to other early civilizations like the Mesopotamian, Babylonian, and Akkadian cultures. And as fate would have it, archaeologists discovered in the ruins of the ancient city of Nineveh, which is in modern-day Iraq, a whopping 30,000 of these ancient cuneiform tablets. In fact, cuneiform tablets have been found practically all over the Middle East, but especially in the ancient city of Nineveh. When the buried tablets were originally discovered by Austin Henry Laird and Hormuz Bassam from the years 1845 to 1853 of the modern era, it was later believed the collection belonged to an even larger collection derived from the library of the Assyrian king Ashurbanipal. A great bulk of the tablets were unearthed by archaeologists during the years 1845 to 1932. These tablets were later deciphered by Sir Henry Rawlinson and then translated by George Smith. Lying amongst these 30,000 cuneiform tablets in Ashurbanipal's library was one specific group of tablets entitled the Epic of Atrahasis. The Epic of Atrahasis tablets are said to be an 18th century BC group of cuneiform tablets from the Akkadian Babylonian era. Coincidentally, this 18th century BC date, when measured according to the 3,600 yearly revolution of Nibiru around the sun, would ironically be around the time when Nibiru was last in our area of the solar system. This group of tablets, believe it or not, gives us intricate details as to the who, what, when, where, why, and how behind the creation of man that we now read about in the biblical book of Genesis and other religious texts. The most intriguing thing about the tablets is that the full gist of this ancient story is believed to be only partially revealed in the book of Genesis. And had it not been for the discovery of these ancient cuneiform tablets, knowledge of Earth's history and the original creation of man may have never been known. The Epic of Atrahasis, along with another notable tablet called the Epic of Gilgamesh and many other fragmented cuneiform tablets, recounts in distinct detail the story of how these extraterrestrial beings called the Anunnaki first came to Earth, how and why they created man, as well as how the enigmatic events leading up to the deluge and their subsequent intentional decision to destroy mankind during Noah's time with the flood. It is important to note that all these cuneiform tablets and their corresponding stories predate the Bible and other noteworthy religious texts by thousands of years. The story relayed in these ancient tablets reads that it all started approximately 432,000 years ago when a small group of exploratory extraterrestrial astronauts arrived on Earth from a distant planet in our universe called Nibiru. This group of extraterrestrial astronauts was later called by the ancient civilizations of Sumeria, Mesopotamia, Babylon, and Akkadia the Anunnaki. The word Anunnaki, when translated, means those who from heaven to earth came. The Anunnaki's home planet is called Nibiru and is considered the 12th planet in our solar system. It is counted as the 12th on a list of planets that includes the Sun, the Moon, Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, and last but not least, Nibiru. Nibiru is also rumored to be approximately 5 to 6 times the size of Earth. The reason Nibiru was and has been such a mystery to the people of our era lies in the fact that it takes Nibiru 3,600 of our Earth years to make a complete revolution around the sun. That means that no one in our era may ever see it, since, due to the manipulation of our genetics, which occurred in Genesis 6:3, we humans no longer live long enough to witness Nibiru's departure or return. But if you're born in the right era, there's a great likelihood you'll get a chance to see Nibiru. It was during the times of Genesis 6:3 that through an act of selfishness, fear, and total disregard for human life, that our lifespans were unfortunately reduced by the Anunnaki to 120 years. How our lifespans were suddenly reduced is another story in and of itself. Zecharia Sitchin also authored a book that was translated for another small group of these cuneiform tablets, a group that consisted of 14 tablets altogether. The book was entitled The Lost Book of Enki, Memoirs and Prophecies of an Extraterrestrial God. Now this particular group of tablets was recorded by a scribe named Indubsar, who wrote a first-person biography or testimony of one of the lead Anunnaki named Ea, who is better known to us as Enki. In it, Enki explains the extenuating circumstances that precipitated the arrival of the Anunnaki on Earth, as well as the events that led up to the creation and eventual destruction of man. In this memoir, Enki begins by taking us all the way back to Nibiru, to a time when Sitchin contends that prior to the Anunnaki coming to Earth, there was incessant turmoil and strife on Nibiru. You see, in those days, Enki related, Nibiru was divided into two warring factions, the North and the South. For eons, the sides waged a bitter war against each other. The devastation they left behind that resulted from these ongoing wars practically destroyed Nibiru. The reckless, catastrophic nuclear warfare and its resultant disruption of Nibiru's climate and natural ecosystems sent a negative ripple effect throughout all life on the planet. The residuals toxins from the post-war nuclear devastation began eating holes in Nibiru's ozone layer, and life there hung in the balance. At the time, Nibiru was divided into two powerful and unrelenting warring factions. But to remedy their situation, the government officials, figureheads, and leaders of the factions had had enough. And one day, they decided to bury the hatchet and devise a plan to reestablish harmony on their planet. One of their main goals was to repair the seemingly irreparable gaping holes in their ozone layer, kind of like what is happening today on Earth. Since their ozone layer was replenished by gases from naturally occurring volcanic eruptions, they figured they would deploy nuclear weapons down into the volcanoes to catalyze their eruptions. The reason the volcanoes had to be artificially triggered was because, for some odd reason, they had stopped erupting during the wartime years. In any event, someone came up with another viable solution to their ozone depletion dilemma. They suggested that the suspension of particles of gold into their atmosphere could create an artificial ozone layer that would reflect harmful rays from the sun and other celestial bodies, at least until the ozone layer was able to mend itself. The only hiccup in that plan was that gold was extremely scarce on Nibiru, and they needed to find a place in the vastness of the universe where the precious metal was more readily abundant. The final phase of their plan was to unify the two kingdoms of North and South under one banner. This, in theory, would be achieved by selecting a king from either the North or the South and marrying him to a queen from the opposing faction. And as fate would have it, in the Lost Book of Enki, Memoirs and Prophecies of an Extraterrestrial God, Sitchin says that Enki explains that the first of the Anunnaki to arrive on Earth from Nibiru was an individual named Alalu. Alalu was a deposed king from Nibiru who wound up journeying to Earth by happenstance. The real reason he came to Earth was because he was attempting to escape the wrath of his rival, Anu. So, to ensure his survival, Alalu commandeered a spaceship and hastily jettisoned off Nibiru to a land of what will eventually be no return. But after landing on Earth, Alalu discovered the Earth contained an endless supply of gold, which was crucial to the survival of Nibiru and its inhabitants he left behind. The Anunnaki's subsequent harvesting of Earth's gold supplies set into motion a domino effect that would ultimately go down in history as one of the most important chain of events to have ever happened. Interested to know the entire Anunnaki story, how it all started, and its relation to our story here on Earth? and how humans came to be, then please feel free to tune into the next episode of our What If God Did Not Create Man? A Beginner's Guide to Understanding the Anunnaki series, Part 3. We humbly thank you in advance for giving us an opportunity to share with you our perspectives on the creation and origin of man's humble beginnings. We strongly advise that you preserve your sovereign rights as unique manifestations of the one creator of all, and take from this message only that which resonates with the core of your being. Again, we send you all an overabundance of love, light, and life. Once again, this is the House of Melchizedek signing off. And always remember, you cannot spell universe without you and I. So until we meet again on this journey of ours, peace.